Sorry, we were changing position. Can you hear me, Yusuf? Kindly
I can hear you loud and clear, Kamba.
Yes, as you've said, outside the Supreme Court, here the signage reads stop. And that is exactly what has been done. We are at the interjunction of the junction of Mamangina Street and Wabera. And of course, that is where the police tight security that has been thrown around just to ensure that they are going to limit the movement here. On my right, that is where the police have put that. They've actually put that particular lorry there, and you can see they are making sure that the movement towards the Supreme Court is actually controlled. That is, of course, motorists here now, they are being forced to make some U-turn because you cannot go beyond my right. That is, of course, a communication that came from the registrar, the chief registrar of the judiciary, Ann Amadi, who said that they had to do this just to ensure that they control the crowds ahead of that pre-trial hearing which kicks off. Therefore, all motorists are now being forced, for those ones that are coming down Wabera Street, they are being forced either to make U-turns or now have to proceed on Mamangina before joining the City Hall Way. Whereas on my right, the tight security that has been thrown around just to ensure that they control crowds. We've had the statement from ODM. Of course, they are calling upon their supporters that tomorrow, Sunday, they have to come and conduct prayers outside the adjacent, or rather the precincts to the Supreme Court. Of course, yesterday, Nairobi Police Commander Japhet Koome outlawed that and said they will not allow. However, ODM statement signed by the Executive Director Odoro Ngwen says that days of actually seeking consent or being granted permission by the police to do such gatherings are long gone, and therefore he said under this dispensation all they need is to notify the police, and that informs perhaps why the police, they've put a very tight security here just to ensure that tomorrow they have to be limited movement. Adjacent to my right is the City Hall Nakumat that is still operational. Some people are still passing. We're not so sure whether that will be the position as the day progresses, because as it approaches 7 o'clock is where we will actually expect that particular situation to be heightened in terms of the security that will be thrown around here. And right at the entrance to the Supreme Court, of course, we have that famous tape of that usually is cited at the scene of crime, that usually you will have to see when they put that tape. Of course, only few personnel are allowed here, and of course we expect the accredited media. There are talks that over 200 accredited media houses and journalists, both within and international, will be covering this particular event, and therefore a similar track there on our right on City Hall Way. So Wabera Street, City Hall Way and Taifa Road, those are the areas that the police have earmarked as no-go zones for those that will not be having anything to do here. And of course, now adjacent to the entrance, you can see the GSU, the Red Berets. That is a paramilitary unit, the most lethal one in terms of in the police service. Therefore, that explains how they are not taking chances. And Langat, if we can turn on our right, we are having 2 of them, I think, even with the bomb sweep there. Now those are more. So we can count at least from where we can see 6 of them. And this is just Wabera Street, City Hall Way and Taifa Road. We are so sure that Harambe Avenue could be having the same. Of course, it goes without saying that is where the offices of the president and the deputy president and parliament are housed, as well as the Parliament Road. Therefore, it tells you how serious they are treating the issue of security here. Even ourselves, we are yet to pick our accreditation. We've been told they'll be coming out this afternoon, and some that are few lucky that are there, it has been just by purposes of pleading and negotiation. But after 2 p.m., if you don't have the the special accreditation, you will not be able to gain access. And I believe even the legal councils as well, they will do the same. However, yesterday, interesting, Yusuf, before I let you go, before we end this link, at Parliament, when responding to NASA's threat that their MPs should not be sworn in, they should boycott that swearing in session, Majority Leader in the 11th Parliament, Eden Duale, called upon all elected Jubilee leaders to come in numbers and actually this afternoon, this evening at the Supreme Court. We are not so sure whether that one will be granted because of the limited space in there, the reason why we are having all this security cordon thrown around. So yesterday, Jubilee leaders were asked to come out in large numbers and give moral support to their legal teams as the pre-trial session gets underway. So we are not so sure how that particular aspect will be going. Over to you, Yusuf.
Kaimba, from your description there, all those streets are going to be shut down. That is Wabera Street, City Hall, as well as Taifa Road. And they're not going to be shut down just on Saturday, that is today, but on Sunday, Monday, as well as Tuesday, and of course, the D-Day, that is Friday. Don't you think we're being told in a polite manner that the city is going to be shut down? And what is going to happen to the business premises around there? And I'm sure City Hall is just around the corner. Does it mean operations there are going to be paralyzed as well?
I think it is all dependent on what might play out tomorrow. As you've said, ODM has clearly indicated that they will obey the rule of law, but they will defy that directive by Nairobi Police Commander Japhet Koome. With regard to activities, apart from NACMAT that is operational, of course you can see some works going on at the City Hall here, or the City County of Nairobi Assembly. Therefore, we are not so sure whether that particular activity will still be going on. And of course, as I've indicated, the adjacent supermarket here, it's operational and everything is going on. But that is today. You can see now they've started turning away some that are, I think, going the other way. I think they're only allowing people who are getting outside their offices. But as I've said, it is all dependent on how the opposition supporters will behave tomorrow. If they'll decide to come and conduct that prayer service that they are saying at the precincts or adjacent to the Supreme Court, of course, the security personnel will not be taking it lightly, and therefore that will inform how that particular situation will be handled going forward. So depending on how the activities will pan out tomorrow, it will have a bearing on how Monday and Tuesday the area will be here, and as far as security measures are concerned, Yusuf.
Final question before we cross over to Patrick Amimo, because he is right now in the Supreme Court. And of course, all eyes will be on the Supreme Court, and to be specific, on the 7-judge bench, together with, of course, the Supreme Court President, David Maraga. And last night, you had an exclusive interview with him. Do you think there's something you didn't tell us in that story that you need to tell us now? And was he anxious? And how was it like? Because he has to go through that huge sort of evidence that have been tabled by NASA.
Well, the Chief Justice, as you saw last night, and I believe we could be having that repeat, he's composed, and he said that he's not new to such electoral matters, and he says he has that particular unit within the judiciary. Therefore, it's not that he's handling it as the first time. And he said even a majority of, actually all of them at the bench, one way or the other, they've handled such matters. Of course, we know that the other four that were there, 2013, they know exactly what transpired. But he mentioned something interesting. He said this particular petition is more complex in terms of the evidence that is being put across by all parties, the petitioners, the respondents, and that informs why they had to burn that midnight oil. However, I said they will do what they are supposed to do according to the law. They will offer a ruling depending on how both parties or all parties concerned will have prosecuted that particular aspect. And something interesting, I hear that NASA is going to oppose any person that would want to be enjoined in that particular case. Of course, they are the petitioners, so we are not so sure how that one will be, although that particularly definitely is the prerogative of the 7-judge bench on whom they think could have some weight that should be also enjoined in that particular petition. Yusuf.
Many thanks, Khaimba, for that comprehensive update. That was our reporter Duncan Khaimba coming to us live from outside the Supreme Court. Now let's cross inside the court. And as I've already indicated, the much-awaited presidential petition hearing kicks off at the Supreme Court at 7 p.m. Today. Prior to that status conference, there will be mention of the case at the registrar of the Supreme Court, and our reporter